So in my last video, the Eight-Legged Waltz, some people were asking about the time signature that it's in. So one person thought, they asked if it was in 5/4, and then another person thought that it was in 6/8. So I'm just gonna explain that briefly here. So it's in 9/8 the whole time. There's no time signature changes or anything like that. It's in 9/8 the whole time. And so what 9/8 is it's like 3 kind of pulses, right, per measure. So it's like 1, 2, 3, like 3/4. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But each of those beats is a triplet. So instead of it being like, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and it's 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a, or 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Like, but it's not 5/4, and it's also not 6/8, because 6/8 the pulse is felt kind of like a 1 2 1 2, but instead of like 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and it's 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a. So it's the same, it's just 2 beats, but they're each a triplet kind of thing, right? So I've written it out in 9/8, 3/4, and 6/8, just so that we can like see how different those are. And again, you can write the music in anything and it can still work, which I'll show here too. But like, you could write it as 4/4 or 5/4, it would just be weirder to read and understand. So when it's in 9/8, you'll notice that in one bar it fits the motif nicely. So so it makes sense that way. So here we can hear it. This is it in 9/8. So. So just to make that easier to understand, I put a metronome that shows like the pulse, like the 1, 2, 3, but also shows every 8th note in the bar. So here it is with that. So when I made it in GarageBand, I had to put it in 3/4 and then put in all the triplets kind of thing to essentially make it 9/8, because GarageBand doesn't have options for 9/8. It only has 3/4, 4/4, or 6/8. But in GarageBand, it's like the bar lengths are 3/4, but then I put a triplet for each beat, which is essentially just 9/8. So here's what that looks like written out in a score. So yeah, it still works, but the reason that I consider it in 9/8 and not 3/4 is because it's simpler to write down. And then also, like, here's what it sounds like with the pulse of 3/4, including all the 8th notes. So like, it still works, and honestly it sounds kind of cool with that, but it's it becomes more of a polyrhythm at that point. Either way it would work. You could just have a song that's in 3/4 with triplets. It's just, that's basically what 9/8 is, so that's why I say it's in 9/8. So what happens in 6/8, it works fine. It's just that here's where like the bar would normally end in 9/8, but it's starting in the middle of the 6th bar. But it writes fine and it sounds fine until we put the pulse in, but I'll show you. Just more complicated than writing it in 9/8 because it's a bar and a half per like rhythm or per motif. And here's what it sounds like with the pulse put in like in every 8th note kind of thing. So yeah, again, it still like technically works. It just ends up having a more polyrhythmic feel, so it just makes more sense to write it in 9/8. And I know you wouldn't have that pulse in there with the music, but just yeah. And just like 3/4, you can make it fit into one bar using the same trick by doing 3 triplets per bar. Which again works fine, it just doesn't look as clean as in 9/8 because you don't have to have the triplet markers. But here it is with the pulse, which again throws it off. I mean, time signatures are just like imagined, like they're just ways for us to organize beats and notes and stuff like that. But the best way for me to organize those beats and notes is in 9/8. That's what makes the most sense for me, that's how I feel it. If you feel it differently, that's okay. No offense taken. I don't think it was rude for the person to like say, actually no, I think this is in 6/8. But yeah, there's no switch in time signature or anything like that. You can trust me. And also I can see why it would look like it's in 6/8 because on GarageBand, like in the video at the bottom, there's like 6 little lines, but that's the division of 3/4 into like 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and, which like we just saw with the pulse, it kind of interferes and sounds a little bit polyrhythmic if you actually include that. So yeah, thanks for watching my little explanation. Goodbye. We're gonna throw some outro music on this or something.